According to IMDb, Breaking Bad is the most popular series of all time, but it is not something new and current. So what inspired me to make a Breaking Bad animation? I was actually inspired by a CG animation posted on Piotr Tatar's channel that was so well made that I wanted to make my own Breaking Bad animation. This video will be a short breakdown of what I went through in the 3 weeks it took me to create the animation. The animation that inspired me is so detailed that I knew that I couldn't create something at that level because such work requires a lot of time and experience in many areas. If we look at the description of the breakdown video, we see that there are 5 people involved and as many as 13 softwares and certainly a lot of time. But I didn't give up. I opened the Blender to see what I could make myself in 3 weeks. The first step is to find ideas for scenes or create a storyboard. For inspiration, I mostly use Pinterest, video from the introduction and the opening scene of Breaking Bad, which is actually the inspiration for the video from the introduction. I'm not a good storyteller and I don't have enough shots to make a story. So the idea was more to make about 1 minute eye-pleasing desert road trip video. To finish everything on time, I had 2 or 3 days for each scene. I decided on 4:3 aspect ratio. Although it's not too cinematic, I had to choose between users watching the animation on mobile phone and a computer. The camper from Breaking Bad is a 1986 Fleetwood Bounder. I started looking for a similar model on the internet. The only way to make the animation on time was to use as many resources as possible from the internet. The choice of a camper similar to the one from the series was unfortunately not good. Of the few models I found, this one was the best. Although it had a bad topology and didn't have the interior that I need for some shots, it looked okay from a distance and had a good texture. Topology would cause me a problems later. I knew I had to model the interior and that I couldn't use this model for close-up shots, but I had no choice. Modeling everything from scratch would take days. Finding Walter White model wasn't easy either. On CG Trader, there are very detailed model of Walter's head intended for printing, but not the whole body in T-pose. T-pose is required for animation. I wanted Walter and Jesse to be in the hazmat suit, which made the search even more difficult. I finally found a solution. I found this hazmat suit model in T-pose and placed it on Walter's head from this model, gas mask on the head, and imported everything together into Mixamo for animation. Mixamo had one pose of driving a car and everything looked okay. Not for a close-up shot and from the front, but from this angle it worked. I added a concrete texture to the hazmat model in the color and roughness input to make it look dirty. In fact, I added it everywhere. Jesse doesn't have a head in this shot, so I was careful not to show it in the camera. Stones cover a large part of each scene, and for close-up shot like this one, the stone is in focus and very important. Modeling organic objects is not the best solution. A much better option is photo scanning. Luckily, I got one of the best scanners on the market in time for this project, the Creality Raptor. Raptor is the world's first hybrid scanner. Includes 2 scanning modes, blue light scanning and infrared scanning. Blue light mode is suitable for scans that require higher accuracy and detail, usually for smaller objects. It can scan objects as large as 5 mm at up to 60 frames per second with an accuracy of up to 0.02 mm. Infrared mode is suitable for scanning larger targets such as faces, bodies and sculptures, objects up to 2 meters in size. The scanning process is very simple. You need to install the Creality Scan software. After that, it is necessary to connect the device to the computer and the software will automatically recognize the device. By pressing the play button on the device itself or inside the software, scanning can begin. Blue light mode requires the use of markers that I got with the scanner. In order not to have to circle around the object, it is recommended to have a rotating base. I improvise with a cake stand. If you are wondering what the purpose of these objects are, in this video it was recommended to use markers that are not only on the ground to make the tracking more stable, so I improvised again and create these standing markers from these metal parts. In any case, more markers can only help, so I took the advice. Before I started with the stones, I tested the scanner on this elephant. The scanning process is very fast and simple. In this example, I rotated the stand 2 times and moved the scanner slightly, and in just a minute or two I got a very detailed scan. The software as well as the lights on the device suggest the best scanner distance with colors, and you can take a look at the result in real time. Also, the reddish color on the point cloud suggests worse parts, so you know in real time where you need to back. After scanning, it is necessary to remove the excess and convert the cloud points into a mesh. You can do this with one-click process that will launch the default settings, or you can play with the settings yourself. You are probably wondering what's with the elephant legs that can be scanned from below. There is a simpler solution than hanging objects on the wall to scan the bottom. You can simply turn the object to the other side, make a new scan, and click on Point Cloud Merging. Creality will automatically merge 2 scans into one object, which is incredibly useful. After the successful test with the elephant, it was time for the stones that I would actually need for the scene. If you are interested in the device, you can find a discount link and more information in the description. Although I decided to use as many resources as possible from the internet for this project, I could not avoid modeling and texturing for a simple reason. It is impossible to find everything online, in this case a 1986 camper interior model. It was not difficult for me because modeling is the most interesting and creative part of every Blender project. To make my job easier, I first imported the camper model from the transportation add-on to get the basic contours and camera angle. After that, I deleted everything except the basic construction and started modeling. The process looks so that you find as many reference images as possible, start with some basic object, and with the shortcut keys, little by little, turn that object into something useful. I talk about this more in detail in this video, and in the background you can see what the process looks like. If you are interested in modeling, you can find a large number of videos about modeling on my Patreon or by clicking on YouTube join link. With one subscription, you can unlock all tutorials, currently about 70 hours, as well as all assets. I also plan to record a detailed tutorial on Breaking Bad, so stay in touch. After modeling comes texturing and unwrapping. To add more detail, I use this cockpit assets by Ian Schubert that I have in the asset browser. I cut off some interesting parts with the knife and put them where it makes sense to be in order to shorten the modeling process a bit. The seats are just basic shape built from a cube with lot of bevels, actually done in a few minutes. Finally, I added a displacement modifier to make it look less perfect and this Chocofull shader that I downloaded for a free a long time ago. Of course, concrete dirt goes to that shader. I placed this photoscan structure under the seat to get more detail and make it look like the seat is sitting on something. In addition to the Patreon or YouTube join, in the description you can see an overview of all my tutorials on my website. You can also check my Blender Market or Skillshare link. Although I mentioned earlier the photoscan object that cover a large part of the scene, most of the environment in this scene does something else. That something else is Dome. Dome is an option inside the HDRI Maker add-on and works by projecting the HDRI texture from the camera angle onto the dome, cube or cylinder. That way, your model is actually in 3D space on real ground that creates shadows and the environment is not infinitely far away, which is the case if you connect the HDRI to the world output. This is a comparison. In both situations the car moved the same, but the left one looks like it is standing because the HDRI is infinitely far away and the car is not approaching anything. The ground can also have geometry and the add-on will automatically project the HDRI texture according to the geometry, which is very useful. However, some disadvantage should be kept in mind. The dome is located in 3D space and as you approach the walls, the texture deforms. For animations where you don't move a lot, this will work perfectly. In my case, it is necessary to play with options like scale and hooks to make the perspective distortion less visible. How much detail you will get depends on the HDRI texture resolution. The Blender Market link to download the HDRI Maker add-on is in the description. To get more details, I covered the parts closer to the camera with photoscanned models. These are mostly the same models of soil, stone and planes that are repeated several times. In addition to the rocks and soil models that I scanned myself, I use models from Quixel Bridge and this model from Sketchfab. Quixel has a large desert collection, ideal for what I want to recreate. I use the free Rigicar add-on to animate the camper. To get the rig, it is necessary to separate the wheels and place the origin inside wheels, or place empty object in the middle of each wheel and parent wheel to that empty. After that, you need to name the empty or wheel correctly, import armature, click Generate Rig, and the rig should work. You can find step-by-step instructions in this video. To create and control the road, I use curve and follow path constraints. Rigicar has a ground sensor option which is actually shrink wrap. The wheels react with the ground, which make the animation realistic. To add imperfections to the ground, I use the noise texture. Since it is a procedural, I can increase or decrease the effect at any time. For the camera animation, I use the Shakify add-on from the Ian Hubert and the bike on the gravel preset. Smoke is an unimportant part of several scenes and was also created in Blender. First, I created and parent this object that will emit smoke to the camper. After that, I added quick smoke effect. After that, I played with the settings until I got an effect I was happy with. It is necessary to adjust the options for both the emitter and the domain. You can also change the texture to the smoke in the shader editor. For more information, I would recommend this video. I won't talk much about the post-processing part in this video. You can find a lot of information on my Patreon. I usually render separate passes that I think might be useful later and then compose them in After Effects. Blender Compositor can also do a good job. In my last step-by-step tutorial, I did the post-processing in Blender Compositor. I used a lot of Boris Sapphire effects for this scene. Sapphire has a large number of effects, color grading, etc. Each option have presets saved by other users, so I don't have to play a lot with sliders. I just choose what I like. I imagine the last scene as a combination of these two photos. Camper with smoke coming out and silhouettes of Walter and James at sunset. All this should have been surrounded by beautiful desert landscape. The smoke is actually just overlay added in After Effects. The swaying grass is an asset from Jan Hubert, and Walter and Jesse are actually Walter and Jesse. But I think the most important part of this scene is lighting. I lost a lot of time to find perfect texture of the sky, and the solution was in Blender. Sky texture and Nishita are actually what I was looking for to create a desert sunset. But the sky texture with these settings creates a lot of light. I only want a silhouette, so actually I use almost completely black color for lighting, while Nishita is visible in the camera with much more light. But just the texture of the sky is not enough. To create more depth in the scene and separate the hills in the background, I use the volumetric cube with these values. To focus on the camper and the main characters in the post, I darken the foreground. This is the final result. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, click like and subscribe.